Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Weather Sim forecast. And in today's forecast, we're going to be talking about another large storm that's going to be coming to the United States over the next few days. And this is going to bring a lot of impacts, as not only are we looking at the potential for another elevated severe weather threat across parts there of the Southern Plains as we head throughout today and even into tomorrow. And then once we get into tomorrow and even into Friday, this is when we could be talking about more severe weather across a pretty large portion of the United States, including areas as far north as the Ohio Valley. So we will be going over all that in today's forecast. We will also be going over some other things that we can expect for the next 7 to 10 days. So make sure to stay tuned till the end so that way you guys know what to expect during that time frame. And we'll first begin with what's happening across the United States today. And you guys can see that the main area that we're watching for is northern Texas, extreme southeastern Oklahoma, extreme southwestern Arkansas, and extreme northwestern Louisiana, currently under a level 3 out of 5 threat for severe weather, which is an enhanced risk. And one of the things that we are watching for today is the potential for a few strong tornadoes. Right along the Dallas-Fort Worth area especially, we got that 10% hatched risk for tornadoes, which means EF2 tornadoes or greater will be possible today, and that also goes along with a 30% risk for damaging winds. And we could also be talking about some large to very large hail across the same areas, as you can see. So something to really keep an eye on today, as large to very large hail, high winds up to 70 miles per hour, and even a few strong tornadoes will all be possible, especially across the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where we could be talking about all those hazards occurring, and even areas up there into southeast Oklahoma, southwest Arkansas, and northwest Louisiana. You guys can still expect the potential for all hazards in play too, as well, as this storm will really pack a big punch. And not only will we be seeing that, but I also want to just quickly point out we also got a risk for some severe weather across the lower Ohio Valley today, with a large hail, small tornado threat, and even a threat for some damaging winds across the lower Ohio Valley. Other than that, it's not really going to be a huge concern, mainly just seeing isolated threats for damaging winds, large hail, and even a few tornadoes. So we will keep an eye on it closely across the lower Ohio Valley today, as well, as that marginal risk does extend into that area. But once again, it is a pretty low threat overall, and our main focus today is going to be mainly across the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If we also look at what we can expect once we get into tomorrow, you guys can see that tomorrow we got a much bigger severe weather threat heading from Texas all the way up there into areas of the Ohio Valley and as well as the Lake Erie region. This is where we could be talking about some pretty big severe storms. As of right now, I don't think we're going to be seeing anything significant, as the tornado threat, for example, is going to be on the lower side of things, but a few embedded tornadoes along the Mississippi River back up there into southern Indiana will be a possibility, so we will keep an eye on it very closely tomorrow, as a few isolated spin-up tornadoes are not out of the question. Large hail threat, pretty low overall, but we still could be talking about some large hail of 2 inches in diameter or greater right over there towards areas like Austin, Texas. You guys will need to keep an eye on the threat very closely. And even the wind threat is probably going to be the biggest concern tomorrow, as this does include a pretty large area. So now's your guys' time to be paying attention to the weather tomorrow, as things really do look to be concerning. And I would say the most concerning area would be where this 2% 5% risk for tornadoes is because we got all hazards in play, including a threat for a few isolated tornadoes, with the bigger threat for large hail being down there in Texas, and the higher threat for damaging winds mainly being across this entire corridor once again, which we will keep an eye on very closely. Once we get into day 3 though, this is when it starts to shift right back to the southern plains, where we do have a level 1 out of 5 threat for a few isolated severe thunderstorms. From what we're seeing right now, it doesn't really look to be anything crazy, as it's mainly just a 5% chance for severe weather, so not really looking at anything crazy on Friday, which will be the start of the weekend. But it is something, once again, that we will watch for, maybe even a small upgrade to a slight risk. We'll have to see how this looks like once we get a little closer. But once again, not really looking at anything significant as we get into Friday, so it shouldn't really be a big one, but we will keep an eye on it just in case it does upgrade. And then after day 3, we're not really seeing any other days with severe weather, but we definitely will likely see some, as all it really says is predictability too low, which all that means is that we could see severe weather during that day, but it's still too far out to really tell exactly what's going to happen, which is what predictability too low means. If we look at why we are seeing all this, you guys can see that for today, mainly focus across the southern plains where we have those higher significant tornado parameters. We're mainly talking about maybe 5, 6 out of 10, which is pretty high overall, given the fact that the scale only goes up to a 10 on the parameter scale. But even areas up there into the lower Ohio Valley, we may see a few tornadoes there as well. And to be honest with you, I would not be surprised at all if we did get upgraded to a small 5% risk for a few tornadoes. And the reason why is, if we go back to the Storm Prediction Center outlooks and select day 1 and turn on the tornado threat, you guys can see that we only got that 2% risk for a few tornadoes up there. And so I would not be surprised at all to see that area get upgraded to a 5%, especially across the lower Ohio Valley, right in this area right here, where we do even have some significant tornado parameters even showing up to a level 5 out of 10, and those are pretty isolated, but they are there though, so we will need to keep an eye on it very closely, as a few isolated tornadoes are looking more likely. And then after that, the significant tornado parameters should die down by tonight, and we should be left with a much weaker severe weather event as we get into tomorrow. But still, we're gonna still be talking about the potential for widespread scattered severe thunderstorms across much of the eastern and as well as the central United States tomorrow, which looks like this once again. As you can see, it looks like this overall. Now, if we also talk about what we could see as we get into the future by taking this forward from now, you guys can see that as we take this forward, once again, we're going to be dealing with severe weather for the next couple of days and even into the weekend. And then after that, we kind of dry out quite a bit. As you can see, we dry out quite a bit. And after that, I don't know exactly when we'll be seeing severe weather event again, but it might take a long time before we start seeing severe weather pop up across the eastern United States, because you guys can see that that right now and into the weekend, once again, we're going to have this energy around. And then after that, see, it doesn't really show a whole lot of energy across the Great Lakes or even the Ohio Valley till we get into the middle of May, which is really far out still. So if I were you, I would take that with a grain of salt, but it is something to watch for, as severe weather is looking possible once we get into the month of May, if why not more extreme, because usually the month of May is the most active month of the severe weather season, so we would usually expect bigger severe weather events than what we saw back in March and as well as the beginning of our April. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, as we will continue to keep you guys up to date with the latest on the weather. And I am planning on releasing a summer forecast, which I don't know exactly when I'll release it, but it will be sometime over the next couple of weeks that I release it. So make sure to subscribe to the channel for that. Make sure to also turn on that notification bell for if and when we do go live. And make sure to also share this with any friends, family, or anyone you know on social media. We really appreciate it, you all. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday out there. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye.